Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel ben Yehoshua, Rashbi here, Rabbi Stephen, with this week's 10-minute Torah. Yeah, wearing glasses here. It's new glasses. They don't glare, so you're not going to see all these reflections from my video, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. And just to make sure, here's my yarmulke. Okay, so you can see it. Uh, People watch my videos, and the one thing they take away from it is, Rabbi, where's your yarmulke? So, okay. Anyway, so Parsha Beshalach. This is a very key parsha. Now, I know we've talked in the past about parshas, comparing them. This one has this one has that. This one's got a pretty critical issue in it or portion. This one doesn't. This one's just a bunch of laws. But again, every single parsha, every verse, every word is key. It's critical to the Torah. Remember that, even though it may not seem like it. I think I might have mentioned at one time the story years ago. I was a camper at Camp Ramah back in good old New York, and we part of our activities was learning Hebrew and studying Torah. And each summer, they did a different book of the Torah. Now, with us, they had started a pilot program, so we got to study the book of Bereshit. And one of the kids, one of my fellow campers, made the comment, at least we get to study Bereshit. What about those guys that are going to learn Leviticus in a couple of years where it's just laws? And I always thought about that. And again, when you're reading Torah, everything is important. And one of the things I want to impress when I do these little vlogs, these little videos, is how important everything is. And, even though I've been doing this for a number of years, there's always something new to discuss. I'm always learning something. As you see behind me, I've got my library. I've got 3 chumashes, and I rotate reading a different one every year. This year I'm on the Art Scroll, which is the Orthodox. Last year it was Rabbi Hertz's, which was the old Chumash. Now they're using the Eitz Chaim, which is kind of an updated, different commentary, different sets of commentary. They've got a verse by verse commentary. Then they've got key concepts like, this chapter is talking about this part of chapter is talking about this, 2 levels of footnotes, which, by the way, drives me crazy. I hate going back and forth. I just like reading the thing and that's it. The Talmud, here's the Art Scroll Talmud, kind of drives me crazy because when you look at it, when you look at the commentary, you see up here is the text, the commentary, down here is all the footnotes. You'll see a little number and it'll have a verse, and number 1, you go down to number 1, it says, oh, this will be explained later. I'm going to read it, so why do you need to tell me, right? Okay. Some people like to go a little overboard, but hey, they're dedicated, and that's the main thing. People, when you get involved in it, and I can tell you from experience, when you're talking about Torah and Talmud, the oral law, when you're talking maybe about Kabbalah, it's just so fascinating. Yeah, anyway. Okay, Beshalach. Having said what I just said, let's talk about the main portion of this portion, which is the Song of the Sea, or Song at the Sea. So again, Israel has left Egypt, and Pharaoh had this realization. He had this turnabout, 180 degree. He was happy to get rid of the Israelites after all the plague, especially the killing of the firstborn, made him look like he was totally unpowerful and helpless. And now he's like, oh, and he was spurred on by the courtiers. A lot of them said, you just left a bunch of slaves. Go. Now think about this for a minute. On the one hand, at first they had the Israelite slaves build some of the granaries and maybe maintain the buildings. Then Pharaoh wanted to work them to death, just doing things just so that they would drop dead from exhaustion. Then they had, and you could probably see that because he said as punishment, they're going to have to get their own straw to make the bricks. It's not going to be supplied. Well, again, if you're trying to build something and you're trying to get involved in the quality of it. You want it to be a real safe, solid foundation. You want to use good materials that are going to last. You don't sit there and skimp on materials or tell the people you can't have this. Because if they're busy getting straw, how strong are they? How adept are they going to be at building the bricks, right? So, but now everybody's saying, well, you just let the slaves go. So, were some of the people actually doing meaningful work as slaves, or was it just a matter of ego? They said, you've been defeated. And of course, Pharaoh, with his monstrous ego, couldn't handle it. So he's like, let's go after him. Takes 300 of his best charioteers, his special forces, and goes out after Israel. And of course, the Israelites are sitting there, and it's this low desert. So they saw him coming from miles away. And they started to freak out. And what did we have? Moses went to God. God went down to Moses, hold up your staff. Nachshon ben Aminadab, who would be the prince of the tribe of Judah, was the first to walk in to the sea. It got up to his neck, and the sea parted. The wind hardened the ground, so they were able to walk through. The pillars of fire and cloud kept the Egyptian charioteers at bay. And once Israel had gone through in safety, as the song says, then Egypt followed them. When all the Egyptians were in the Sea of Reeds, it closed up and drowned them all. Some of the bodies washed off on the other side of the shore where the Israelites are, so they could see that the danger's gone. Okay, so here we are with the Song of the Sea. Now, it's called a song. Why is it? What makes this a song? First of all, let me reiterate the actual format of the song. So when you look in a Torah scroll, instead of just verses and paragraphs and spaces of 9 letters that separate certain parts of the Torah, this was different. First of all, the column's a little wider than the other columns. Second of all, you might have a verse here, a space, then a verse here, and down here you have a verse. Verse here, verse here. And the construction is if you're laying bricks. And the reason you're laying bricks is because the foundation is steady. If you make brick on top of brick, then what happens? You can push them over, right? What did Samson do? He got into the palace. He was blind, but he was able to push the columns away. The whole thing collapsed, and he defeated the Philistines. But if you have, and look at a brick building, look at the way they lay bricks, right? Brick here, then a brick here, and they stagger them so that you have brick on half brick, and that makes a strong foundation. So right now, and there's the metaphor, Israel had a strong foundation. They saw the signs and wonders in the form of the plagues, that God was taking care of them and leading them to freedom. They had their faith in God. The song was a celebration for God's help. So there was strength. And that's what the idea, the format of the actual song was. Now, what makes this a song? If we talk in modern days about what a song is, it's a melody. We got these notes. They go up and down. You have a series of notes, and you can sing and, Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharei, right? That's a song. In the Song of the Sea, you have the series of cantillations that you typically have throughout the Torah. Mapa, Pashta Zakev Katon, Merchatipcha Munachet Naktaha, Zakev Katon, stuff like that. Kadmaviaz La Revi'i. Okay, those are your cantillations. Now, if you're an astute cantor, which unfortunately I'm not, I'm passable, then there's certain melodies that are in that song. But that's not what makes it a song, according to the Art Scroll Chumash. What makes it a song is the way all these factors come together in a cacophony, in a group of a message, that you have different parts of things, God's might, what he did for us in Egypt, the way Israel passed by the sea unharmed. That's what makes it a song, the fact that you've got all these factors coming together. Now think about this, because one of my key concepts is relevance. Think about life. Is life not a song? Does this song not represent life? Do we not have a lot of things going on in our life that make up what our lives are. You've got work, you've got relationships, you have your pleasurable activities, you have things that you do, food that you eat, when you rest, uh, people that you know. Life's a song. And that's the whole thing of the Song of the Sea. Read it in English and see the various things that it talks about. Micha Mocha, Baal Guvarot, who is like thee, O Lord our God, who is like thee in holiness. That's part of it, right? So think about that. Think about some of these concepts that we're exploring now that you might not have thought about to really understand what the Torah is doing. It's not just what it says, it's how it says it. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you again for listening. And we will see you at services. Maybe not my service, but go to services no matter what. Thanks again for listening.